Well, thanks again, Tommy, for doing Uncontaminated Sound.
Thanks for having me.
Interviews. Like it's kind of we discussed prior. Try to just really investigate, why people create, or not why people create per se, but just talk to interesting creators in different types of genres and stuff. And of course, with you being in, the popular band Jukebox the Ghost, and also being, balancing illustration, it was like kind of like that would be interesting to talk to yourself. So, well, thank you once again.
Well, hopefully I'll give some interesting answers. So.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I just really want to be conversational.
Yeah, totally.
And so I don't really know like too much about your background and stuff. Like,
yeah,
how did you get into creation? Like, were you supported, I guess, at home and family? Like, did you have a creative family?
Yeah, yeah, definitely was supported as a kid. I mean, I've just always been one of those, like my whole life, like one of those kids who was like, kind of off in another world all the time.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, I was obsessed with drawing.
Yeah.
And trying to think. I mean, art was definitely, comics in particular was the thing I took very seriously at a young age. But then I hit puberty, and like, it was like a switch flipped in my brain, and I was like, I want to play music, and then picked up guitar and didn't look back. Like, I didn't keep drawing. I didn't take art classes in high school or anything like that, or college or anything. And so, yeah, I had bands in high school, and then met the other guys in Jukebox the Ghost in college. We all met at George Washington University. And then really just started touring after that. And comics has only really become a serious thing for me in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Two and a half, maybe, even.
Oh, wow.
Before I was doing it kind of like... there was a period of time where I was doing it kind of casually and sporadically through the band.
Yeah.
So I would draw like a t-shirt if we needed a t-shirt design, or I did this thing where on tour via social media I would take drawing requests from fans.
Yeah.
So someone would like ask for the band as like Legos or something, and I would draw us as Legos and then tweet it back.
Yeah.
And it kind of became this like shtick while we were on the road, sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my background.
Did you read any like illustrative books back then, like when you were younger? Like I don't know. Were you inspired? I guess like by anything back then? Like,
yeah, I
any
mean,
illustrator or comics or
right. I mean, well, because my I feel like my ingestion of comics was totally prepubescent. It was like completely through a kid lens.
Yeah.
And so there were things that made a big impression, but there's also like things that I missed that I'm kind of coming back to and going like I just read like The Watchmen.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like in theory that would have been one of the things I would have read in high school if I'd kind of like
that's true.
stayed on that path. Yeah. But yeah, as a kid, I mean, obsessed with Calvin and Hobbes. I mean, that's got to be that's got to be number one by a landslide. Far Side was huge for me. I mean, I remember in '95, so I guess I was like 10 years old. That was when that year both Calvin and Hobbes and the Far Side ended.
Yeah.
And in particular, I remember like December of '95 when Calvin and Hobbes had its last strip, like just like crying.
Yeah.
Because it was so important to me.
Yeah.
And hanging up the final one in my room. Which is such a beautiful strip. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's the one
I used to buy those books too.
Yeah.
Like back then.
There's that amazing one. They're like, the last one is like they're going off on the sled, and it's just like, let's go exploring Hobbs. Like, it's a magical world out there, and it's just like, beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So the Far Side, Calvin Hobbes were big for me. There was a series called Bone that I was really into as well. That's kind of like somewhere between like. It's somewhere between like a Donald Duck comic and Lord of the Rings, which sounds strange, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I revisited it recently and was impressed.
Cool.
It's beautiful black and white illustrations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like now as an adult, like now that I dove back into the comics world the last like couple of years now I'm kind of getting re-educated on like what's out there.
Yeah.
There was kind of a blissful ignorance I had for a while because I didn't really know what was expected of a webcomic.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like learning like oh, you can do cool stuff that I was not doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
So-
that's like with anything like craft or arts or anything where maybe you play around lightly until you start to really understand the serious nuances behind the craft once you like, oh, I really want to focus on it.
Totally. But there's
Um,
also like a foolish kind of innocence that's kind of you kind of want to keep too because
Yeah.
knowing too much about the craft and the genre can be like a total trap. And
it's
so
true. Yeah.
feeling that way about music and having every guitar line that I do being like like, oh, this sounds too much like this or this sounds too much like that. With comics, I'm just sort of like, I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
I'll do this and see if people react to it.
Yeah, it's less limiting, because you're not thinking about rules or constructs of that craft, or what other like say illustrators or craftsmen would think of the work. You're just doing it. For
Yeah.
Was it generally just for yourself too? Like,
It was kind of like a both
Yeah,
kind of a
cool.
thing. I mean, it was like, but yeah, I mean, so I started this challenge to draw a comic every day for a year.
Yeah.
I guess about 2 years ago.
Cool.
Almost exactly
Yeah.
2 years ago. A month over 2 years ago. And yeah, I started that as a challenge just because I'd seen a comic artist that I liked do that challenge, and I discovered him like kind of later into the challenge, but I sort of watched him keep getting better and better and better, and I was
Yeah.
kind of like, well, like I'd been submitting for New Yorker comics and getting rejected, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was like, well, like if you're gonna take it seriously, like just do it.
Yeah.
So the daily kind of thing gave me like a ritual that I don't think I would have had that kind of pressure to get better.
Yeah.
But it was pretty amazing. I mean, like, I look back at the project now and I can tell which month of the project. I can pinpoint exactly which moment in time a comic is from based on how it was
Interesting.
drawn.
Wow.
I just learning so much along the way. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like the feet are wrong. Like that must have been in the first 2 months.
Hmm. Oh
Like,
yeah, you kind of see the evolution of your practice over time, which is
Mhm.
interesting, right?
And how the characters
Yeah.
change and how the jokes change.
Yeah.
Like I got better at writing jokes as it went on.
Hmm. Well,
yeah.
so what did you study? Like wrapping back to kind of like the bio, it's like you went to George W. What did you go to school for?
Journalism.
Oh wow, yeah.
Which I've never worked in other than internships when I was in college.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I like interned at the Washington Post like during college, and it was really cool. But we just kind of started touring right after
Wow.
college, and that.
So yeah,
I
you
never
guys
really went
linked
back down
up
that road.
at George W. to form. It wasn't initially Juke, right? Or
We were called the Sunday Mail
yeah.
at
yeah.
first, and then we changed our name to Jukebox the
Cool.
Ghost.
Cool.
Yeah, it's funny in hindsight because like I only went to school for journalism instead of music because I thought that it was impractical to
Yeah.
study music. I thought that I should do something more career and stable, like
Yeah.
print journalism. I mean, that was
Oh,
my
yeah.
that was my major.
Oh yeah, there was a
Which I mean, if I could think of any career less stable than music, it would be print journalism.
yeah.
It's kind of funny
Yeah.
in hindsight, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I worked for the Park Service I was a park ranger for a few years during and after college.
Yeah.
Which was pretty fun.
But how did you get? So you guys started touring. Did you have like a manager at the time, or how did you start getting gigs initially out of school? and
Yeah,
stuff?
we did. I mean, we self booked a couple tours.
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
really bad. But this was like, I mean, this is kind of dating myself here, but like it was during I guess the MySpace era. So
Well,
you
yeah.
were still mailing headshots and CDs to music venues. You weren't like
Yeah.
just emailing them. Like it still was. You mail a headshot, and a bio, and a CD. So we booked a couple tours that way.
Yeah.
They were terrible. Yeah, I mean, our first few years of touring were pretty bad generally,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to think. We had a show that we had just self-booked. We played benefit shows all the time because
Yeah.
we didn't really know how to book gigs, so we would just sort of like play anyone's benefit show.
Yeah.
And there was one in our college cafeteria, and this high school kid who was a singer-songwriter opened for us, and he really liked us. We ended up hanging out with him, and he went to NYU that following year, and like his sophomore year asked if he could manage us as a as like a college project.
Oh wow.
So he started managing us, and he was kind of learning along the way, just like we were. And he's still our manager.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Like 16 years
Whoa,
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like the universal kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? You never know where
Totally.
it like will grow off. So was there any like? Did you have any like when you actually decided to take music seriously as we're just gonna do this as a living? Did you have any like doubts or like were there people saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's probably not the best route to go. Or...
Well, we lucked out that our bubble was our college bubble.
Yeah.
And before we had a following anywhere in the country, we had a great following in DC, mostly due to our college. So like, well, I should back up. So most of college we were playing for the same 7 friends over and over again in like big empty rooms. But we really started hammering it hard and recorded an album our senior year of college, and started flyering a lot more, and had a couple of good on-campus like opening gigs. Like we opened for I think it was Ben Queller and Regina Spektor and
cool.
a couple others, like just like the on-campus band getting their big shot, So yeah, we came out with an EP. We had an EP release show. It was just an amazing convergence of factors. Right before we graduated, we finally had some real recordings on MySpace, and we had this EP release show. And we expected maybe 100 people to show up, and so we booked we were like the opening slot at the Black Hat in DC.
Yeah.
And like 700 people came out.
Oh whoa!
And so we had this totally amazing moment. And we also lucked out because it was graduation week, so all of our parents were there, and so they got to see us play for this crowd of like 700 people. So they were all very encouraging of us just touring right out of college, because that was what they'd witnessed.
Of like,
if they'd seen us play in Philly, they might not have had the same opinion. They would have seen us in front of 5 people, but everyone was very supportive.
Cool. Very cool.
I mean, and we were also, we I don't know. It all happened at a very lucky time in a way. Like I can't imagine starting a band from scratch now.
Yeah.
As but fresh out of college, like you don't have any expectations of money, so we were all working part-time jobs and living in a house together in Philly for like the whole house was like 900 or 1,000 or something like that rent a month. Touring in a minivan. And then, gradually we just started making it work. But it took a long time. I mean, it took, I think it was like 2010 or 2011 where we were kind of like, oh my God, we're making a living, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, we're making like full-time Taco Bell salary, Yeah.
What were you guys listening to at the time? Like, what were you really influenced by, I guess, like...
Well, the band has, I think part of the reason we sound the way we do is that we don't really agree on anything.
Yeah.
So Ben, pianist, is a big classical guy. He's also a big top 40 guy. Loves the art, pop as an art form.
Yeah.
Jesse's more of like a classic, straight-ahead rock and roll guy. He loves like, Tom Petty and, I don't know, I'm trying to think of who else. He's loved a million different artists. And then I kind of swing all over the place. I mean, like, I feel like I have these 2-3 year phases where I'll, like, for a few years I was like, I love 70s prog, and then I was like, I only like post-punk, and then the last few years I've been in, like, a very, like, Afrobeat, South American music kick.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's like, people's, ears change, your taste, and I think that's good to have that eclectic kind of, ear that would influence your work as well. And
and I can hear those influences like on the records. I go like, I can hear that Jesse was really into Ringo
Yeah.
when we recorded like Everything Under the Sun,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's just Ringo fills all over the place.
Yeah.
Um,
When
I
did
was
you
too, yeah.
guys kind of start your Queen show, or
yeah, so that's
were you
what,
always listening to Queen, or how did that come about? I guess. Yeah.
yeah, that's been like a great. So when I was talking about our band not having a lot of musical common ground, that's like an interesting moment where we've had our first band that we all kind of agree on.
Yeah.
Interestingly, none of us are Queen obsessives.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
we all love Queen, but we're not like we're never like trading bootlegs or like obsessed with it kind of before we dove into the material.
Yeah.
So now we kind of really dove in headfirst and fell in love with it just in an academic musical sense by
Cool.
like having to learn it. You realize just how fucking good Queen is
Yeah.
on every level.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that they've been a helpful reference for us because it's a place where we can all meet and agree that it's like cool.
Yeah.
And for our lineup, like we've got a drummer who likes like loud, punchy fills. We've got a classically trained pianist, and we've got me as a guitarist who loves just like a nice, like a wanky solo. Like
Yeah.
and Queen's like the perfect band for that.
Yeah.
Of
course, yeah.
what other band is there really?
And Ben's vocals
Yeah,
like
totally.
pair perfectly with Queen's.
Yeah.
Lyrics and stuff, and kind of similar to Freddie Mercury. So it's nice. It's cool. So.
Yeah.
What was it, a couple years ago when you had the first what was it?
Halloween.
Halloween.
So yeah, we started doing this thing. It was Jesse, the drummer's idea. We did a show. We had learned at that point. I think we knew like 2 or 3 Queen covers just from touring and learning covers is like a fun tour one-off. And yeah, he came up with the idea of Halloween. We just put it on the calendar, booked a venue, and Music Hall Williamsburg was the first one.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
sort of hoped we would figure it out in time. And then for a couple months beforehand, we were just drilling Queen songs like every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just sort of all came into place, and we realized that it was like such a fun way for us to continue to grow as a band, but sort of take the pressure off in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing about the show too is we don't have to truly be a cover band. We are trying to do our best at doing Queen, but it's a 2-set show, so we're doing our own stuff and then we're doing Queen stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that enables us to be like to have a different feeling than just being a cover band.
Yeah.
Because it's more of like a Jukebox the Ghost is Queen rather than some band is trying to be Queen.
Yeah. Now, wrapping back to like 2010, that kind of threshold, I noticed on Wikipedia, I guess, that's around September. You on Letterman? Oh, you guys did a spot on Letterman. How was that? Like, how was that experience? And post Letterman, did that kind of, do you see an influx of people interested in your sound? Or?
That was an interesting moment.
Yeah.
So we got Letterman on a it was a total fluke.
Yeah.
We got the call about it. We didn't have any heads up at all that it was even a possibility. We got the call asking if we would do it the night before.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And our gear was in Philly. Jesse and I had just moved to New York.
Yeah.
So we got the call at like 11:30 at night. We drove to Philly, picked up Ben, picked up all of our gear, drove back into New York at like 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Slept for like 3 hours, and then had to load into Ed Sullivan Theater at like 8 in the morning.
Cool. Yeah.
So, and then performed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whenever they taped, and then we were watching it on TV less than 24 hours from when we had been asked to do it.
Whoa. Yeah.
So somebody
really
had canceled.
Quick. Yeah.
We still don't know. But we didn't, I think occasionally there are those like Letterman or late night performances that go viral, but in general, like the actual audience that's going to react to a late night performance is kind of small in a way. Which is not to say that it's still significant, but at the time it was almost like it was less about getting fans from people who'd watched Letterman that night by happenstance. and more that all of a sudden people saw us as a legitimate band.
Yeah.
It was like a resume bullet point or something. Like, all of a sudden, like, our distant relatives who never would have talked about our band were, like, bragging about us to their hairdresser.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? And even though we were still the same band and still had pretty much the exact same audience as we did before, it was like we had all these people around us who were all of a sudden like, you guys are famous.
Yeah.
Which now I think people know better than that, but it was still that moment, I think, where it was like, you know, maybe that like Ed Sullivan Beatles hangover kind of still was somehow in effect 5 decades later. It was like, you were on the TV, you're famous now,
that's true.
you know?
Yeah,
so, but totally surreal, amazing experience.
Cool. So what brought you guys to kind of wrap, maybe just chopping up the time frame, but what brought you to New York after Philly?
I think at the time we were touring with a lot of bands that were from New York.
Yeah.
And we just moved to Philly really randomly. I mean, we didn't have any connection there.
Yeah.
It was just cheap. And we love Philly. But, you know, I think we started realizing we had a lot more friends up in New York. We were constantly driving up there on weekends or taking the Chinatown bus.
Yeah.
And so, Jesse and I made the move first, and then Ben made the move, I think, like 9 months later.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Was it initially Brooklyn or...
Yep, moved to Williamsburg.
Cool. Yeah.
In 2010.
Yeah.
I think it was 2010. Sure.
So, like, in your, like, what, you know, like, I've read a few articles. You guys consider yourself a touring band, but what do you like? What do you like better, I guess, or if there's any difference? Well, of course, there's a difference from like recording in studio to performing live in front of people and the stage. So, I guess, do you favor like a process, or what really energizes you about creating music after all these years?
I think it's just always changing. We used to say we were. I mean, this is an interesting inflection point for the band, I think, because we used to say we were a live band and not really a studio band.
Yeah.
But as you can see, we built out this studio.
Yeah.
And we've been working here, 4 or 5 days a week for the last couple months. It's really new.
Yeah.
So it's like for the first time we are a studio band, because before we were always paying someone else to record us and never had enough money to get it, like, to have the time that we really needed.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we've kind of had the unlimited resource of time, and that everyone in the band is now a pretty adept engineer and producer. So we've got all of a sudden the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So I think as of 2020 we are a studio band.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you guys would you consider yourselves now more independent than comparatively to being managed and under a label? I'm not sure about your structure.
We're currently independent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we've been all over the place. We were on an indie label. We were totally independent for our first record.
Yeah.
Then we were on an indie for 3 records. Then we were on a major.
Yeah.
For a re-release of a record. Then we got dropped. Then we were on a distributor for an album, which is sort of independent, but it was under a major label umbrella.
Yeah.
And now we're independent again.
Cool.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I think our biggest success was on our last record, which was having a distributor, but still having some access to sort of major label radio stuff. So that seemed to work really well for us. So
because I feel like what I've noticed with like trying to start my own thing and also talking to other independent artists is that even maybe with a label or representation, no matter what system, say as a fine artist you'd be represented by a gallery, it's basically where you need representation for, or a label for, is distribution, right? Or the resources. Have you found that strictly being independent has been kind of limiting trying to get your stuff out there, or now with the you guys being a band almost 10 years onward, you don't really need. Of course, everybody would like more resources, but you find it easier now being independent than say starting out straight from college, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The snow globe feels like it got shaken, and all the snowflakes are still in the air.
Yeah.
Sort of like as an industry. So I don't know where is the right place to be, but my gut says that everything's going to be different in 5 years anyways. So wherever you think is the best place to be might not be in like a year.
Yeah, who knows?
So, would we rather be signed to a major label with a huge radio budget? In theory, sure. In practice, maybe that would be a trap.
Yeah.
Maybe they're headed for financial collapse. Like, we don't really know. Yeah, it's all just sort of a mystery, I think. And so, yeah, I think that's part of why the distributor method worked so well for us, was because it's sort of like you have 1 foot in the new, 1 foot in the old.
Yeah.
We had some flexibility, but we also had the ability to kind of like tap into some old school industry stuff like radio, like terrestrial radio.
Yeah. So over the years, how have you noticed like your dynamic? You met in early in college, and then trying to expand your professional careers in music. How has your dynamic with each other changed or evolved? I guess. Because I could imagine, I've had long-term, friendships since like, 4th grade, and it evolves, or you kind of lose interest, but I mean, being a tight-knit kind of trio, and as a band, you need to be together day in, day out and tour.
Yeah.
Has it changed, I guess, or has it grew stronger, I guess?
Well, I mean, we're lucky in the way that, like, I think a lot of bands, like, if they start with a singer who's got, like, a full record ready to go, and they're like, I need a band to play this album. The band then is sort of a disposable good, and if somebody's, like, bugging them or something, they can be like, you're out.
Yeah.
But we started in college as friends, as roommates, and just having fun with it, not really having much career ambition. So it's all really thankfully built on that backbone. So there's a real sense of family, which there's good and bad with that too, because it's like sometimes you don't get along with your family. But at the end of the day, they're your family. So that's what makes it like really work.
Cool.
And so it's like we ebb and flow. Right now we're having a great time.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'd be lying if we said we like always completely 100% get along.
Oh yeah.
You get stuck in a van with 3 people for 2 months. With no breaks from each other, and every once in a while you're gonna piss each other off. So we do pretty on. I mean, I've seen that on the spectrum of bands. I think we're in the top 1% as far as like intra band relations. Like, it's starting to feel for us, like, in terms of the bands that we're friends with, the bands that we came up with, the bands who started around the same time. It definitely has a little bit, and then there were none kind of vibe. It sort of feels like we're the one left where we're like, I guess we're the murderer,
Cool.
So
started picking up, touring and traction with the band. When was the point you started back with your pen and paper, illustration or cartoons?
Yeah, so there was really a specific moment.
Yeah.
Actually, when I think about it, we were on tour. I don't know where we were driving from, but I was just drawing in the van, just idly, and I think it was Ben requested, like, he was like, can you draw? He was like, draw me. He was like driving. He was like, draw me a shrimp on the belly of a goat, like having a party, and I was like, okay. And I drew it, and then, like, I think Jesse requested something else, like, and I was trying to make them laugh, and just, like, drawing ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
And then we just opened it to fans on Twitter.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so then it just became this constant back and forth. And it was like,
oh, that's cool.
On tour, then it would be like, there would be specific days where it's like, Tommy's doing Van Doodles today, tweet at us,
And then you, coincidentally, or thus turned it into a book project, a Kickstarter.
I did, like a little DIY book,
cool.
Which is now out of print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you find, like, there's a duality, like, between like your side that creates music and the side that you know creates these illustrations. Like, is there does one medium help you express the side of yourself, or you critique the side of what you notice about the world in a format that you can't in the other medium, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, they're two very different types of creativity for me. Music is sort of, for me, fits in this very ethereal kind of open space where you're not really like, it's not very mission oriented. It's more like just allowing yourself and self time to like daydream and kind of think of a melody, or it's sort of it feels a little more fluid and poetic maybe,
Yeah.
and less objective oriented. Comics to me, it's great for my brain because I had this side of my brain, but I wasn't using it, you know, in a practical way.
Yeah.
But it's very like, you think of a joke and you think of the most efficient possible way to execute that joke.
Yeah.
Which a song isn't necessarily like the most efficient method of communicating a melody. You know, it's like, yeah, a good song has like, feels like it has a journey. You might grow with age or whatever. A comic is meant to be ingested within 3 seconds, give or take.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's a much more intense, objective kind of oriented medium for me. I know for some people it taps into a more like I don't know, a more fluid space, but for me it's like it's all about the joke and executing the joke.
Interesting. Yeah. So why did you choose that method? I guess like cartooning comparatively to illustration style, where, well, cartooning, you have that strict structure of I guess storytelling or joke. Or in illustration, you can draw characters and tell a story through just visuals. Where,
well, someday I'd like to do that someday.
Oh, cool.
I've never been inspired. Like I haven't had that idea yet. You know, I think that requires some imagination and inspiration that I haven't had yet.
Yeah.
For me, it's just been about like I think I trained my brain to do this because of the daily comic project, where it was always like keeping a running tally of joke ideas or like concepts I could riff on. So yeah, it became very objective oriented, not narrative. Someday I'd love to play with that as a format. But you know, I was sort of reacting to what went well on the internet in a way, because I was like, it was primarily a social media project. Yeah. So, and what works well on the internet is something that, devoid of context, can be absorbed in 3 seconds.
That's true. Yeah.
And which is essentially like the Far Side. You know, Far Side mixed with meme culture. Yeah. Sort of. You know, that's sort of where I ended up, and I think I've definitely thought a lot about whether I was doing something that I wanted to do in a medium, or if the medium was completely shaping what it is I was making.
Do you have like general underlying themes that resonate throughout your strips, or is it just maybe a contemporary event you critique?
I definitely like sort of self-roasting. Yeah. So I think a lot of the comics are about like me kind of either mocking my own behavior or people who I know. And just sort of the world around me. Yeah. I mean, my comics tend to be pretty, they switch between that and being a lot of like social critique and political kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, my favorite comics are the ones that have a really sharp edge to it, or the ones that don't make any sense at all. The in-between I have trouble with, but like I really like when a comic like digs at something really deep that you didn't expect to see in that format. Like these Candy Hearts comics that I do, that like I really like using them to probe like the darkest parts of like love. You know, because that to me is like really interesting. But on the other hand, I also like drawing like the Pringle Man naked or whatever, which is there's no social critique there really. I mean,
Yeah.
I could claim that there is, and I guess my intention is that there is some,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
I don't. The people aren't actually viewing it that way, so
Yeah,
it's just the
yeah,
Pringle Man.
Pringle
They're like,
Man.
ew, weird,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But I like that too, you know.
So I guess like for both crafts, where do you see them evolving to? Like, is there a pinnacle, or do you have any idea? Like, maybe just a rough vision of where you'd love to see, say, your illustration work go, and then like same with music.
Yeah.
Like,
What I'm trying to figure out at the moment is that I've got these comics that have a certain cynicism and dystopian mood to them.
cool.
I've also got my material is Jukebox the Ghost, and a solo record that I haven't released that I've finished. It's also very much thematically in the same space.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And what I struggled with for a while is how to marry the two, but I think it's just further down the road. There's some kind of vortex point.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. And
See
I feel
that.
like the internet's and social media is changing so quickly that I don't want to get married to any particular idea, but I really would love to find a way to combine my music and my visual aesthetic, whether
Do
it's
you like-
animation or, you know,
like an animated like music video or like a
and I've played
animated
with,
like music opera or something. You know,
yeah,
like
the
what
thing
was
I've
that
struggled
on
with animation.
MTV? Was it heavy metal?
Right.
Was it? Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I've played around with some ideas and kind of storyboarded and workshopped some stuff with a friend in LA who's an
Yeah.
animator who's
Oh, cool.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, but it's all kind of long game stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
sort of like, I don't know. I definitely I have some a few things I've animated myself that I haven't even like put out in
Yeah.
any way, just because I'm sort of like I'm getting used to post the end of the 500 comics project.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting used to the idea of drawing something and not putting it immediately online.
Yeah.
So I now have stuff that's not online that I've
So you
finished.
wrapped that, right?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So
Cool.
now it's more like I'm on kind of like a 1 or 2 comics a week
Cool.
kind of kick.
Yeah.
Yeah. While I'm
Cool.
working on the Jukebox the Ghost record and other drawing stuff, and I don't know when this video would be going live, but definitely have a exciting comics related news that I probably shouldn't announce yet. But
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
coming soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because I think every 2 weeks we've been publishing these videos with now what's it? It was V13, which is a Toronto-based media company. Where
Cool.
because I figured like I needed, distribution method myself to like I don't have a following on YouTube. Like this is my first kind of project with video, so it was like I had 0 followers. So I'm like I need
Sure.
something already established, and kind of they dug the idea and concept. So every 2 weeks they publish a video or a conversation. So you'd be maybe a month from now. I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, so I really need like a timer.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I'm
good.
still adjusting, man. Like so.
Yeah, no, I have
like
no
anything.
perception of time either. I'm like, has it been 5 minutes or 2 hours? I
Yeah.
have no idea.
I really need like something like just a clock right
a
here.
sundial.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just a sundial.
Something unobtrusive like a sundial.
Well, that's what happens in a few interviews where it was like midday and then the sun just went down. And you could see over the
Yeah,
time
because
span of the video, it was just shadow cast and
yeah,
then
that's how you know
darkness.
it's a good interview.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
See the day transform.
it was cool though. Yeah, it was cool. What else? I guess that's really we got into really what I want to touch base on. Any insights into the younger kids trying to start bands or going into the field? Music, like, would you suggest, I don't know, like, pursuing it full time, or is it just now? I know it's tough, now with the digital age and stuff, but, like, any advice on, like, creatives or younger crowds?
I think, I don't know, something that I'm trying to keep in mind and trying to that I wish that I could convince everyone I know to get on board with was, I think from a very young age we're all kind of drinking the capitalism Kool-Aid
Yeah.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
And we are taught that music is a meritocracy, or creative arts are a meritocracy, and that if you're really good at it, you can make a living off of it.
Mm.
And I think the internet era is really challenging that idea, and I just have so many friends who are so colossally talented who really beat themselves up over not making a living off of their art.
Yeah.
But it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's truly a market failure. And so yeah, the thing I think the thing I would encourage people to do is to not have the expectations of the pre-2010 music economy.
Yeah.
As they're getting into music. We don't know what's coming next for a wide variety of industries, you know. And I think music is just one of the first dominoes to fall in a way. And so it's to me it's just like, just if you can find ways to take the financial pressure off of doing it, you're going to be better off, because you're going to enjoy it more. You're not like, because we've had years where we were strapped for cash and we weren't making great music and we weren't having fun. And I think that at the end of the day, it's way more important for you to enjoy your craft than it is for you to make 100% of your living from music.
Yeah.
And I feel like I talk to a lot of younger people at shows who have that kind of expectation and drive, and I want that for them too. But it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to discourage people from making great music, because I think that if you're making something that you believe in, then it's literally worth making at any cost.
Yeah.
Just don't, you can't expect the capitalism cake to kind of be handed to you, because the market has determined that their music has essentially no financial value.
Yeah.
And so that's a weird place to be. And I think that that's bad, and that any way we can insulate ourselves from that psychologically is going to be a good idea.
Yeah, like you see the experience of enjoying music changing now, where you could have different platforms to experience music. Say, we could technically have a live performance here,
right,
and broadcast it throughout the world.
Totally.
Where we see the vulnerabilities in live festivals now with without contingencies due to viruses. And
Yeah,
stuff.
totally.
So it's like,
I mean, we were talking about the other day, like if we had shows canceled, we could probably pull off some kind of a live stream concert on the internet.
Yeah,
from here ourselves.
You could do something like VR too, or something like something trippy where we don't have to all converge in this one place now with this ever evolving whatever it is
Yeah, totally.
But where people can still really interact with the artist, and that's where like I really enjoy myself, is the interaction between fan and artist, or and where people can have that access, no matter if they're there or not, to the creator.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The only thing I've tried to advise younger people getting into music world is that I do think it's kind of necessary to be a one-stop shop now. And we've learned that very slowly, and this is kind of our first record where we actually are the one-stop shop for our own music. But I think you got to learn how to produce your own music. I think that's like truly the future. Or if you have a friend who's really good at it too, that's great. But it's you can get away with making a great, like, high streaming record with a few $1,000s in equipment. There's no excuse anymore.
Yeah.
And you can learn it all by watching YouTube videos. There's literally no barriers anymore.
That's
it's
true.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, Billie Eilish being like the first example I can really point to, because it's like she made that like in Ableton, like with her brother.
Yeah.
Like all in the box. There's no gear on that record, and that's like the best-selling record in the world. So, yeah, I think even if you're afraid of it, like, because a lot of creative people I think are afraid of the kind of engineering technical side.
Yeah,
it's too easy. Like Logic, like it's so user friendly. I would just encourage everyone who's making their own music to really learn how to make it themselves.
But do you think still that the best experience to enjoy music is live? I find like you still can't beat the stage
Oh, agreed.
and that the venue energy, you know.
Yeah, it's a communal,
Yeah.
spiritual experience.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you don't get the release of. Yeah, it's rare that I get that kind of emotional release from listening to music on my phone.
Yeah, true.
You know?
Yeah, it's like, and then the ad interjects if you know, it's like
yeah,
on like
and it's so easy to be
Spotify.
distracted too.
Like I
so.
miss like iTunes, I do. Just where I'm just like listening to
Yeah,
straight
totally.
music without advertising. You know, it's like every half hour, because I didn't get premium.
Yeah.
And, like nobody's buying. Like,
Yeah, the
you know, I'm
iPod
just-
almost seems like meditative.
Yeah,
now.
because it's like I just upload my music and then it was right there. No
Yep.
advertising
Totally.
constantly in my ear. You know? So it's weird how the whole industry has evolved with the digital technology.
It's all changing so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're just. I feel very lucky that we're still together. We're still doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so far we've surfed a bunch of different waves, and it's worked out for us.
Cool, man. Sounds like a good note to kind of end this. And thank you so much
Sure.
for your time, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool.